for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member. You know, the student tours have started back up here in the Capitol, and I was walking through the rotunda. I walked past a group of young kids from Ohio, and the kids were listening to their teacher talk about George Washington, and then I heard the teacher say that this is where we have all of our checks and balances. And I remember thinking to myself, well, only for a few months more. And you talk about banning books. I was like, well, we might have to ban all of the books that talk about checks and balances because we won't have any at the rate this committee is going. So in 4th grade, children are learning about civics, the 3 branches of government, the checks and balances of power between the different branches, the co-equal partnership between the executive and legislative, the independence of the judiciary. Not a new phenomenon. Article 3 judges were established 236 years ago in the Constitution with the lifetime tenure. And we could go back, and I've heard it in this committee, and talk about Marbury versus Madison, Plessy versus Ferguson, Dred Scott, but more recent is where I want to land. And I thank the chair for also bringing up some of these rulings. We've had Bush v. Gore, we've had Citizens United, we've had Hobby Lobby, we've had Masterpiece Cake Shop, we've had the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And yes, all major wins hailed by the right, and in the aftermath of these rulings, even with the passion of the left, Mr. Speaker, the judicial institutions remained intact, and bench officers were not excoriated or physically threatened. In fact, one U.S. district judge, her son was killed. But now we have an administration aggressively and unapologetically pushing the boundaries of what is constitutional and erasing the checks and balances of power by going after judges who do not side with Trump, to the point that even Justice Roberts of Republican lore says it is inappropriate to impeach judges. And after all, he is part of the ultimate arbiter in this arena, which favors the Republican Party with a 6-3 majority. So I'm asking myself, what is really going on? What is going on is we are setting a dangerous precedent by replacing judicial independence with judicial fealty. Because if judges feel like they must follow a partisan ideology rather than independently interpret the law, then we, as lawmakers, are a shill in this charade. We do not make laws for ourselves to interpret. We make laws for judges to interpret and impose punishment to those who don't follow them. And what is sad is that all these decisions that Trump doesn't like are still appealable. So once again, what is going on? What is going on is, instead of being a party that supports smaller government, Republicans are creating a far-reaching leviathan, an insatiable, chaotic monster of power. And once that locomotive starts going, you cannot put the brakes on. This judicial independence, checks and balances have withstood 118 Congresses and 46 presidencies. And somehow today we are supposed to be at some critical moment where we are told to believe we have to blow this thing up. And it makes me think about March Madness, which is happening right now. These kids are playing their hearts out. They are trying to win, and they are dealing with good calls and bad calls from referees. And not all calls are perfect, but they are still respected. No one says, I didn't like that call, go after the referee, go after the system. And in fact, in organized sports, the most classless and unpalatable thing you can do is blame your loss on the referee, or blame the umpire for the outcome of the game, or cheat. And 5-10 years ago, we saw these parents attending these Little League games, and then violence was being committed. People were running onto the field, attacking and assaulting the referees, and it was distasteful. And now we are here with this court doing the same thing. The games do not work without officials, and our system of justice does not work without judicial officials. And Justice Roberts says, all we do is call balls and strikes. Judges, like referees, are a neutral party. You don't always like what they say. You might not always agree with their calls, but you have to respect the institution and the officials. And if you take away the one element that brings integrity with it, then the competition itself has no integrity. And then you have to ask the question, why do we even take an oath? Why do we even obey any of these laws? And what we have right now at this hearing, with Trump's attack of the bench officers, with the threat to impeach judges, is the equivalent of parents rushing onto the field and trying to punch a judge in the face. It is disrespectful, it is unseemly, it is unprecedented, and it is a disgrace. And with that, I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady. We now go to the gentleman from